Good afternoon and welcome to the Living Well radio program. You can find us here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. on KATB 89.3 in Anchorage as well as KJLP 88.9 in Palmer. You can also catch us online at katb.org. We are so delighted to be back in the studio. How are you doing today, Betty?
I am well, and I'm very excited about our guest today.
I know. We just have so much fun having all these
Yes.
ladies in here, getting to know what's available right here in our own great state of Alaska. We are pleased to welcome Heidi Ober back to the studio today. She is no stranger to us. She's been here before. She is the area director with the Family Life Weekend to Remember conference, and she was in, how long ago was that, Betty?
Had to be, the conference was in April, so it was before that. She was on advertising the Weekend to Remember, so I'm very excited to hear how that weekend went.
Yes, what a pleasure it is to get the backside
Yes.
and being able to introduce it to people, but also have you back in the studio to let us know, update us how that went. So I'm just going to turn things over to you, Heidi. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the awesome things you're doing.
Confetti and
Yes.
balloons and all the above, right?
Yes.
Well, thanks for having me back, number one. And yeah, totally awesome. April 22nd to the 24th, we had our conference here in Alaska. So excited to have done that. Kind of a little recap just in case you didn't hear the first time. Heidi Ober, my husband is Ryan Ober, and we both, obviously are directors for the conference here in Alaska. Volunteer, have an amazing team of folks that help us out, so it's definitely not just us on our own. But in which case, we're a part of Family Life as volunteers, and our role is ultimately to serve the community of the state of Alaska and bring in folks to the Weekend to Remember. So the Weekend to Remember is a marriage conference that happens once a year. And we try to get as many folks as possible to this event to just really have an opportunity to focus on each other once again, just getting back, getting away, getting together, going back to the core of what marriage is and that biblical definition of it. So that was really nice. We've been doing it here now for, about 7 and 8 years, and serving in this role for the last 4. So really, really enjoying that.
That's awesome to see your guys' involvement in that ministry and just the time that you're giving to that. So you guys just recently had your 2016 Weekend to Remember. Tell us a little bit about the attendance and give us the stats on how well that went.
And we always like to, have a number. So our goal is up in the 600s, but happy to say we got 445 attendees this year. So, of course, we'd love for God to just sell it out, but we also just appreciate that folks are getting folks to the conference. We had 445. Obviously, there's a little odd number in there as far as couples. Singles come too, just to learn more about what marriage is, so that's awesome. And praise the Lord, we had 7 salvations. So,
wow.
If there's a applause button, we can hit it. And obviously, then, too, there's recommitments to family and then likewise to the Holy Spirit. So we had 76 people recommit themselves to their family, that being husbands recommitting to their kids, their wives, and likewise wives to their kids and their husbands. So, and ultimately to God. So very cool. We always love to share those things with you guys back and get it back to those that help, obviously get people here.
Was there a mix in age?
Oh, you bet. Yeah. The one of the things they start off with in the conference is they get the newliest married and then the oldest married. Oldest is not really the best word, but we'll go with it. Newliest married, forgive me because I tend not to pay attention to that one as much. I think they were mid-February they
of
were
this
married.
Year?
Of this year.
Good for them.
I tend to more pay attention to those that have had more tenure in marriage, and they were 49 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and second
incredible.
place was 47 years. So very, very cool. Those are the ones you just want to just sit and listen to all day.
They would have so
long.
many stories, so much wisdom.
Well, and just the
to
fact
share.
that they're still investing in their marriage
Absolutely.
and wanting to make it better.
Yeah, and they ask, of course, okay, so what's the secret, right? And everybody's quiet at that point. But they asked, and he says that divorce is never an option. You
That's
don't
right.
ever entertain it. And, then coming full circle at the end of the conference, they go and they ask couples who are willing or individuals who are willing to share, what they learned. And one couple in particular stood up and said, we are so glad that somebody stood up in the beginning of the conference before we ever got any time in and said something like that, because it just reaffirms why we're here and that, this is obviously grounded in the Bible and likewise in God. And if we're focusing there, then there is no D word, we call it. So very cool.
That's great. And tell me again, how many did you have?
445.
445. And where was the event held at?
At the Anchorage Downtown Marriott. So we've had it there the last couple of years. They've done events in Fairbanks. They've done a couple events here at the Hilton and the Sheraton. So, but Marriott's kind of been the home for the last couple years, and they do a great job for us.
Tell us a little bit about what it's like to serve on the team. You guys have quite a team that puts together this event here locally.
Yeah, so maybe even go back so far as, why we are where we're at. Just because our testimony is really, God gave it to us in terms of just embedding us in this event. We started in 2009, really felt led to come to this conference. We were married 2005 and just kind of hit a rocky season and really wanted my marriage to be what God intended it to be. So sitting here on a Wednesday afternoon, and I just give my hands up to God and I said, God, I can't do this anymore. I don't know how to change my husband, right? And there's that quotations. So I hear about this conference actually on KATV, and I'm like, oh, we should go. We should really go. So I get my husband, and he's like, sure, we'll go. We'll do it. He's a little resistant to the fact. And then he lets his work know. Work gives him the time off. And Thursday afternoon, the conference is on Friday, they say, oh, we can't let you go at his work. And I'm like, oh, no, we can't do this. And so I actually made him quit his job. And he ended up coming to the conference with us, and he was saved Sunday morning in 2009 at that conference. God dramatically rocked him, and likewise me, and we have been serving on the team ever since. That is just our testimony. Every other couple that's on that team has something similar to share, and just God really opening the doors in ministry for marriage and family. And so all these couples that are here with us, we have a team of 8 right now, actually, that are actively working, not just at the conference, but as home builders. So getting out there and putting information out in terms of, networking with churches, or likewise sharing in ministry for family and marriage. So yeah, they love it. We're glad to have them, and we hope to just keep inviting and invoking that biblical depiction of marriage.
Are you ever looking for more people to join your team, or is that possible?
Yeah. Oh, always possible. I'd take them all if we could. Kind of be standing there. Nope, you can't come in the door until you help on the team. No, really. We do want folks that are completely invested, and we recognize, hey, I have 3 daughters, so I work full time. My husband works full time. It's hard to do, and we certainly don't want you to be half in, half out. We really want you to be able to have the time, one, to focus on your family first. But if that is a passion that you have, we definitely want to hear from those folks. And yeah, definitely get them involved in the conference or in ministry or in home builders. Just so we can, not stop after the conference ends.
Can you walk us through what a conference is like? I mean, what could a couple expect? It starts Friday evening, correct?
Yep.
So start us on Friday. Tell us what happens.
So Friday, of course, you get a bear hug from my husband, so just a fair warning. As you come up the stairs of the Marriott, they introduce you with a name tag. You get a book for each of you. Sit down and get comfortable, and they start in with the conference kind of just describing what a biblical definition of marriage is, and communication and teamwork. Goes through what we call the hubba hubba on Saturday night, where you get to talk about the intimacy in marriage, the oneness in marriage, spiritual oneness in marriage. So it starts on Friday night. It goes into Saturday mid-morning. You get there. You get a break for lunch. Then it goes into Saturday evening. The Saturday evening is the quote-unquote date night. So about 4:30, you guys are wrapped up and headed out to do whatever you want. And then on Sunday, you're there for a brief session where you break out as wives independently and husbands independently. And then Sunday, you wrap up about 12:35. So you're never in a small group. You don't ever have to hold hands. It's not like they're calling you out on the spot. It really is ultimately about you and your spouse. But it'll definitely rock you either way on, either side of the fence, so to speak. Other than that, it's really an awesome opportunity for us, at least. We get to disconnect. We have kind of a rule in my home of putting the phones away and getting away from the computers and work and all that good stuff. So it's nice because we look forward to this conference every year because it truly is for us a getaway. We're not getting out of the state by any means, but we're getting away from the house. Love my girls, but getting away from the kids and having that opportunity to really focus on each other. So
I know this is the first year that I was not able to come down there. I always like to go look at the books, the material that you have for sale. Can you share some of the things that were for sale that really anybody, I think you have a time that's open that anybody could come down and purchase?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go online, of course, you're going to see all the resources there at familylife.com. They have I guess by section, marriage or family or parenting. And that's kind of how the weekends broke out too. Through each session as you break, you have the opportunity to go back and look at various resources. And of course, the speakers will suggest some. But in any case, it's spread out throughout the conference. They have marriage courses that you can teach as a home builder. They have marriage books in general for, oneness, for intimacy, for husbands, for wives independently, for parenting, for step families, you name it, it's pretty well there. It just depends on, what you're feeling led to draw to. And they also do like bundling and what have you of different resources that they suggest as a whole, which is really cool for those that are newly married coming in like, what do I get? And of course, you don't have to get anything. The conference in and of itself is a great resource because they give you a book, you're writing the notes, you're taking those back with you. But for sure, it at least saves you the shipping to Alaska, right?
Yeah,
that's for sure. So you guys have got next year's event already calendared.
We do.
When
April
is it?
21st through the 23rd. And it'll again be at the Anchorage Downtown Marriott. So it's already on the books, ready to go. They'll start releasing the information in terms of like publications. Like they have a booklet that talks about the getaway itself, probably towards the tail end of October. And we'll definitely get that out as it's available. And we've asked Family Life to send out a save the date card this year to pastors.
Great idea.
Just because it seems, especially, well, not just Alaska, but there's so much going on. Awesome ministries, but we want to make sure it's on the calendar so there's not some conflicts and gives everybody else an opportunity to kind of get it on the books. So,
is there any kind of follow-up with any of these couples? Do you stay in contact with them? Or?
We do. It's mostly through their initiation, i.e. contact me. Most of it goes through Family Life directly. But our team has the awesome opportunity of connecting with these couples at the conference, be that through just face-to-face or even some of the breakout sessions. So our opportunity really lies in that couple's desire to reach out to somebody locally. Like I said, most of which is somebody just coming up to us and saying, hey, we're here. We would love to speak with you or find out more about the ministry or find out more about how to get plugged in. And we certainly offer that to them. But for the most part, we're a little reserved in that regard just because there's 445 people there. And we certainly don't want to take away from their time to be with their spouse. But that said, we are always there. Our team is very recognizable in that regard. To say if you have questions or you want to learn about what we're doing and why we're here, we're definitely there. So we follow up with the folks too for salvations just because that is ultimately the most important takeaway from the conference. We want them to know that we're here to partner with them and help them in their walk and likewise, get them plugged into a church if that's available to them and go from there. So, yep.
So it looks like you guys people can start a group right now and get some discounts on registration. Is that right?
Yeah. So even if the conference isn't close to, what we'd love to have folks do is go on to the website. And that's www.familylife.com/weekend. And that allows you to go in and read all the information, obviously, but then you want to click on invite others. And what that does is allow you to set up a group. So my group, we have a couple, one of which is called Cross to New Life and the other is AK Love. So with that group, I allow folks to register under our group name and they actually save $100 off their registration. So when you first get on and you try to register for the event next year, it's going to look a little scary just because the pricing, it's usually $350. So if you go on and you start a group, one, you get the automatic $100 discount, but two, you can invite others to go in with you and save on that. Doing so, you also get, for every 5 couples that register, you get a free pass. So that's obviously our favorite part because then we get to bless other couples and attending. Within your church, it's a great entity because you get to stand there and couples will approach you and say, hey, we'd really love to go. We don't have the opportunity to do so. How can we get there? Then you can offer them that scholarship. Churches can get involved too in having a group set up for their church, majority of which is usually their church name. Like ABT has one and likewise our church does. So just neat to kind of get that out there for the churches, have the ability. It's very hands off. So you don't have to sit there and manage anything. You basically start your group, you give them a name, you put it in your bulletin if you want to a couple Sundays before and let folks know that it's available and then you're done. So it's really, really nice not to have to kind of babysit it.
I've heard several couples over the years talk about the conference and I've heard bits and pieces, but what would you say would be your very favorite part of the entire weekend?
Honestly, the beginning there where they, like I said, talk about the oldest married couple or the longest tenured couple is really neat for me because two-sided, you see those folks coming in and they're saying 49 years and they're standing there and they are proud of that legacy that they've built and you can see them holding hands. So then hindsight, for me is the victory in the end when I see couples that have been absolutely separated, coming in different cars, standing at complete ends of the auditorium, and they don't want to have anything to do with each other. They are there for the sole purpose of either, finalizing the divorce papers because that was a condition of, or they're just there because, okay, this is the right thing to do. So to see them come in and completely be separate, and then by the end of the conference, God reaches them, and they are hands holding, and they are making a recommitment on Sunday, which is a really neat opportunity that Family Life offers there. Couldn't be better, because I've seen that side. I've witnessed that side, obviously, with my husband having been saved in 2009, and they're able to walk away and have hope and a restoration, obviously starting, because it doesn't end when you leave the conference, right? Because as soon as you do, the devil's on you. But seeing what it looked like in the beginning, and now see him walking out the door, and it's like, all right, been there, done that. I've seen the 2x4 in the head, so it's really, really cool. That's, twofold, two parts of my favorite.
So I want to ask you a question, and just kind of digging a little bit deeper. It's no secret that pornography has just become such an epidemic. And, it's so encouraging to see the church beginning to address those things, but it's still, at the beginning stages of that. And in fact, Utah has deemed it a health crisis in their state. Do you see this conference addressing that, or is that yes?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's really neat. Like talked about Sunday, they do the men's breakout session. And of course, I can only speak to being a female, but my husband will tell you, and guys, don't be scared of this, but they really do call it out to be, guys, you are the leader of your home. You have a responsibility as a man of God to not allow those things into your home, to recognize what it allows, and the protection that is lost because you're viewing these things. Obviously women are a bit more disconnected in that regard. We're very emotional, and relational in that regard. So we kind of don't understand the physical aspect of what pornography does. For guys, he just lays it out, that's not right. That is absolutely not acceptable. You are allowing your wife to not be covered in that protection of God by allowing that into your home. And so, very much so. They do call it out. There's resources available. We actually picked one up ourselves just to have as a resource. So it definitely addresses it. It's not like an hour-long session where that's strictly all they're talking about, but more so about the leadership as a man of God in your home and the protection that takes away because of it.
Now, your husband serves in a ministry as well, doesn't he?
He does.
I want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about that.
So way cool. He's part of a motorcycle club, or an MC. It's called DCMC, or Disciple Christian Motorcycle Club. Recently chartered up here in Alaska. I believe it was in the fall. Don't quote me and don't get mad at me, Ryan. But in any case, they are up here on a ministry to find men that are interested in joining their club, and likewise minister to what they call the 1% world. So those that are otherwise lost. And really just, there's quite a bit of it. So we got an opportunity even this last couple weeks to be a part of the bike blessing and watch these guys interact with these other men, and likewise their wives. It's really cool for us because it's, dual ministry in that regard. We're serving in the same capacity as kingdom work, but really neat to see how, I'm more passionate about, say, marriage and family, and he's more passionate about being in an MC or whatever, ministering to those folks. So way, way cool.
What is a bike blessing? Or
All
a biker blessing?
I love how you asked that, Betty.
Right. Revving engines now. So the bike blessing is an annual event. And I believe it's ACC that has pretty well sponsored the event for the last couple of years. And then I think this year, up to 4,000 people that come to this event, bikes throughout, all on 9th Avenue there. They get the clubs together. And they come down and have the opportunity to have their bikes prayed for, and likewise for the riding season. And I don't even remember what it was, but I believe Ethan Berkowitz was downtown, and he was saying some crazy population of bikers that's up here per capita Alaska's amazing. We have quite a few bikers here. So the couples, I keep saying couples. Can we start?
That's okay, because we need to go back to the we can remember, don't we? I
Right?
got you off trail.
That's where your mind is at on the couples.
I know. I'm like, bike. But in any case, the bikers are there for get their bikes prayed over.
Well, I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
That's something new to me. But it sounds way cool.
It is awesome. Yeah, we get to go down and really just be a part of all this community of bikers. and likewise of Motorcycle Christian Association, which is I think MCA, and then likewise his club, which is the DCMC. So really neat.
How many were there?
Geez. Of our guys, I think there's 8 of DCMC, and then the Christian Motorcycle Association, CMA. That's what it is. There was a trove of those folks too, but up to 3,000 to 4,000 people on the park strip. So,
wow.
Yeah, they block off all of 9th and 10th Avenue and let those folks come on through, and those folks go out and pray for the bikes and likewise the riders. So awesome ministry.
It really is. In fact, I was just talking to somebody this weekend who I don't believe attends church or would probably even profess to be a Christian, but they were there getting their bikes blessed. They see value in that. And so just to know that there's still some way to reach the fringes of people, it is a neat ministry. Absolutely.
Yep. And that's exactly their point, is they're reaching that 1% world. And if that's the shared focus in having a motorcycle, then amen, because we'll take it.
Yes.
He's had folks even call him this week that have otherwise missed the bike blessing and want to come to his work and have him pray over their bikes while he's on lunch. So, yeah, really cool.
That is really neat. Is there a way for somebody who might be listening that has a man in their life that might want to get involved in something like this or partake? Do you have a website or something?
Yeah, if you look up Disciple Christian Motorcycle Club, you can check it out. They have, like I said, a few members here locally, what they call, your full patch members. So those that have been in the club and have already been invested in it. And then likewise your prospects and your hang around. So they're there. You can definitely check them out. Just Google it and see what they're about.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that side note.
Yes,
I just know that it's neat how you and your husband serve in ministry at a little bit different capacities. I know you joined forces on the Weekend Remember, and that's really cool. But it's always neat to have opportunities for ways for men to get involved so that they can fulfill this leadership role that God has given them, but find a support system and an encouragement in other men to do that.
Yeah, because let's not forget it's not alone. And that's, I think sometimes, guys, forgive me, but you guys get a little discouraged, and it's okay to get that encouragement from other men.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for. So, us gals can sit in a coffee shop and be there for days, but having that focus and that ability to just reach out to these guys, it's really, really cool to sit back as a wife and see that. And if anything, to see that affirmation in that as a shared focus and kingdom work.
Yep.
Going back to Weekend to Remember, is there a specific story that you can share with us that just stood out at this past one?
For us individually, there was definitely some great opportunities to just minister to couples, having been in a similar, we'll call it trench. Of course, we're fighting each other half the time, but we forget who the real enemy is, right? In the foxhole. So for us to being able to kind of counsel some of those couples, just personally, of course, we're not counselors by any means, but we can share what God has done through us and focus and likewise aligning ourselves in that spiritual oneness. But it's really cool because then we get to come back and get conference comments back. And those comments, they, of course, give us permission to share. But I brought one, so I'll have to read it to you in that case. But it's from a wife, and she's been married for a year, and she says, "This was my world. My husband and I just separated, and I asked if he wanted to go, and he said yes." And, of course, there's an exclamation. "We found out we both were doing everything wrong. This has given us a new foundation to start on. This weekend finally let us both be honest for the first time, helped us to remember why we love each other and what we are fighting for." And we have a page even within Ryan and I that we do on Facebook, and it's that fight for your marriage. Like I said, we're in the trenches and we're fighting a common enemy, and sometimes we don't recognize who that really is. So great, we're two passionate individuals, but who is the real enemy that's causing us to have that conflict? It's not my husband. It's not my wife. It is the devil. And I think sometimes we lose focus on that. And I am the first to admit it. But in that regard, we have an opportunity to recognize who that is, to stamp out and defeat him in that regard, call on God, and bring it back into focus. So that was a couple from 1 year. We had another great comment that was from a wife of 8 years. And guys, I'll throw one in here for you too later. But you might like this one. It says, recommitted to becoming, quote unquote, one as a team. Also brought some spice and romance back into a relationship, quote unquote, hubba hubba. So really funny in that regard. Of course, then there's couples in here that are 17 years. A husband says it opened honest communication and committed that the D word, divorce, will never be in our vocabulary. So husband and wives both take away from this. They both offer input to it. It's not something that you go into kicking and screaming, though I did drag my husband, but you will come out refreshed, you'll have a renewal with your partner, and likewise, hopefully a renewed focus on who God is and what he has in store for your marriage.
I can hear the passion in your voice, Heidi.
Yeah.
How important this is to you, how much your marriage means to you, but also how you value other people's marriage, that you want them to make it. And I'm just so grateful for the ministry that you and your husband are involved in, and you're willing to take this up. You're willing to share your story in order to help other people. And just in the past year, that has become so important in my life for other people to share their stories. It encourages all of us. It encourages and it helps to know that somebody's been there.
That's right.
And somebody's come through to the other side.
Yeah. And I can't remember, we did a conference, 2 years ago, and just following that, we had a couple that came to a course that we were teaching, a small group study rather, at our church. And I remember going through this course with them. And of course, there's, 5 or 6 other couples. And we get about halfway through and we talk about fighting, in the trenches together, and kind of a shared community of married couples rather. And she says, I didn't realize that it was okay to fight. I'd been living this life with my husband of everything's fine, everything's perfect, nobody fights. If you're a real Christian, then you don't fight. And she just starts bawling, just crying. And I said, oh, but it's okay. You're looking at 2 completely passionate people and their own entities coming together. That's the beauty of marriage and how God defined it, because that's that completeness, that oneness back together. So absolutely, it's a shared focus for anybody that's involved in this ministry. We really need to be able to share that. Is that the Casting Crowns songs that's broken together, right? I had a friend ask us about that. Well, do you think that's really a song about a man and a wife, a husband and a wife? And absolutely, but I look beyond that and I see the church. Broken together is the body of Christ, because here we are in the church pew, this perfect couple, and they'll tell you 30 to 60% at any one time in a church. They may have this perfect peace on the outside, but they're at each other's throats elsewise. So we need to be able to come into that community and recognize that there is a devil and that he has every aim to destroy us. And the more we can be in that unity, the better to fight the front.
And two, I think, Heidi, and I'm sure you probably agree, that a lot of times people can look at that quote unquote perfect couple and just compare themselves to that couple rather than recognizing maybe the work that couple did to get there.
Exactly.
It's not really just that they found the right person and it was you missed your mark. It's that they worked at that, and that's the victory that they're walking in, and you too can arrive at that same place with some work.
Yeah, because how many times have you seen, and I know we talked about it the last time, was a couple that is 30, 40 years into marriage and then they separate.
Yes. So sad.
It is. It's terrible. And you go, well, what happened? They had this perfect marriage. Well, right. That's what we saw on the outside.
Yeah.
And that's where we go back to the ministry is, regardless of whether or not Ryan and I serve on the weekend team, 10 years from now, we will always pursue and grow in marriage, because once we stop and be stagnant and stale, then we lose that. We lose that oneness, that spiritual oneness and growth that we've had obviously the awesome opportunity to serve on the We Can Remember team. And like I said, We Can Remember, or a resource, or take the Bible out and look at that focus. There's definitely a lot to take away from just not being willing to sit.
I am so glad that you have the date for next year's.
Yes.
Because now we can advertise April 21st through the 23rd at the Marriott 2017. Ladies, put it on your calendar and plan to go.
That's right. Yep, we'd love to have you guys there. And like I said, check us out on Facebook in that regard. Fight for Your Marriage. Look it up. You can find us there. We'll put information in there as far as how to start a group. Otherwise, just visit the website at www.familylife.com/weekend, and that'll give you all the dates for upcoming next year, as well as all over the country. They have events going on still right now.
We want to thank you once again, Heidi, for coming back to us and giving us an update on this awesome weekend that happened right here in Anchorage, Alaska, to grow couples for the greater glory of God. And thank you for your service to that ministry as well. And we want to thank everybody for listening today to the Living Well radio program. You can find us here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. on KATB 89.3 in Anchorage, as well as KJLP 88.9 in Palmer. You can also catch us online at katb.org. We'll see you next Wednesday.